3 in the morning. The phone glows in the darkness. Another notification, then another. The mind races through conversations that haven't happened yet, mistakes that might occur tomorrow, opinions from strangers on the other side of the world. The heart pounds. Sleep becomes impossible. This is not a nightmare. This is Tuesday. Welcome to the digital age, an era where human consciousness interfaces with technology in ways our ancestors could never have imagined, where information flows faster than thought itself, where the boundary between public and private has dissolved into a stream of constant visibility, where anxiety has become the default state of existence. But what if the solution to our most modern problem was written 2,000 years ago? What if 3 ancient philosophers, living in a world of marble columns and handwritten scrolls, had already solved the puzzle of digital anxiety before the first computer was ever built? The Stoics didn't have smartphones. They had something more powerful, a framework for human consciousness that transcends technology, a philosophy designed not for comfort, but for survival in chaos. This is their story, and yours. The unraveling. The numbers tell a grim tale. Studies show that the average person checks their phone over 150 times per day. That's once every 6 minutes during waking hours. Each notification triggers a cortisol response in the brain. Each scroll activates the same neural pathways as gambling. Each like releases a small hit of dopamine, training the mind to crave more. Social media platforms employ behavioral psychologists. Their explicit goal is to maximize engagement, to keep eyes on screens, to turn humans into users. The technology is not neutral. It is designed to exploit fundamental vulnerabilities in human psychology. The consequences manifest everywhere. Depression rates have increased by 30% in the last decade. Anxiety disorders affect 1 in 5 adults. Sleep deprivation has become epidemic. Attention spans have collapsed. The ability to focus deeply on a single task is vanishing from human experience. But the problem runs deeper than statistics. The digital world has fundamentally altered the structure of human consciousness. It has created an environment where the mind is never at rest, never alone, never silent. Every moment contains infinite possibilities for stimulation, infinite opportunities for comparison, infinite sources of judgment. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius never saw a smartphone, but he understood something crucial about the human condition. He wrote his private journals not for publication but for survival, for maintaining sanity in a world that demanded everything from him, for preserving his inner freedom while external chaos pressed in from all sides. He called these writings meditations. We call them philosophy. They contain the answer. The birth of resilience. Athens, 300 BCE. A merchant named Zeno survives a shipwreck. Everything he owns sinks beneath the waves. His cargo, his wealth, his future. He arrives in Athens with nothing but the clothes on his back and a mind forced into clarity by catastrophe. He begins to study philosophy. What emerges from his studies becomes Stoicism, not a passive acceptance of fate, but an active practice of mental discipline, a technology of consciousness designed to maintain inner freedom regardless of external circumstances. The word Stoic has been corrupted in modern language. It suggests emotional suppression, cold indifference, a refusal to feel. This is the opposite of what Stoicism actually teaches. Stoicism teaches distinction between what you control and what you do not, between judgment and reality, between reaction and response, between the turbulence of the world and the stillness you can maintain within it. 3 principles form its foundation. First, the dichotomy of control. Some things are up to us, our thoughts, our judgments, our intentions, our actions. Everything else is not up to us. Other people's opinions, external events, the past, the future, success, failure, life, death. Anxiety emerges when we confuse these categories, when we try to control what cannot be controlled, when we invest our peace of mind in outcomes beyond our influence. Second, negative visualization. The Stoics practiced imagining loss, not from pessimism, but from preparation. They contemplated the death of loved ones, the loss of possessions, the collapse of reputation. not to depress themselves, but to inoculate themselves against shock, to recognize that everything external is temporary, that nothing outside the mind can truly harm us. Third, the reserve clause. Act with full effort toward goals, but append to every intention the phrase "fate permitting." This creates psychological flexibility. It maintains motivation while preventing the despair that comes when reality refuses to conform to desires. These principles were not theoretical, they were tools for survival. Epictetus, another founder of Stoicism, was born a slave. He lived in chains for decades. His owner broke his leg. It never healed properly. He limped for the rest of his life. Yet he became one of the most influential philosophers in history because he discovered a truth more powerful than physical freedom. No one can enslave the mind without permission. Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire, the most powerful position in the ancient world. Yet he wrote constantly about the burden of power, the isolation of leadership, the threat of corruption. He used Stoic practices not because his life was easy, but because it was unbearably difficult. The Stoics were not sheltered academics. They were survivors, warriors, leaders, slaves. They developed their philosophy in the crucible of real suffering, real chaos, real uncertainty, just like the digital age. The anatomy of digital anxiety. Let's trace the mechanism. You wake up. Before your eyes fully open, your hand reaches for the phone. It's automatic now. A reflex. The screen illuminates. 47 notifications wait. Each one represents a demand, a judgment, a potential threat or opportunity, a fragment of social reality requiring interpretation. Your cortisol levels spike immediately. The stress hormone floods your system. Your body prepares for threats, but there are no threats, not physical ones, just information, symbols on a screen. Yet the body cannot tell the difference. You scroll through social media. You see carefully curated moments from other people's lives, vacations, promotions, relationships, achievements. Your brain performs rapid comparisons. It measures your life against these highlights. It finds you wanting. Never mind that you're comparing your everyday reality to someone else's edited performance. The emotion is real. Inadequacy, envy, fear of missing out. You check your work email, messages from your boss, urgent matters, things that could have waited, but the expectation now is constant availability. The boundary between work and life has dissolved. You are always on call, always accessible, always one notification away from obligation. You click on news. The algorithm knows what captures attention: conflict, outrage, catastrophe. Stories designed to trigger emotional responses, to keep you scrolling, to keep you engaged. Each headline activates your threat response system. Each article convinces you the world is more dangerous than it actually is. You make a post, you share a thought, an image, an opinion, then you wait, you refresh. How many likes? How many comments? Are they positive? Negative? The judgment of strangers becomes the measure of your worth. Your mood depends on the digital validation of people you've never met. This is not living, this is being lived. The Stoics would recognize this pattern immediately. It is the confusion of categories, the investment of peace in externals, the surrender of inner freedom to forces beyond control. Every notification is an attempt by the external world to control your attention. Every comparison is a judgment based on incomplete information. Every moment of waiting for validation is a moment spent in slavery to other people's opinions. The digital world has not created new problems. It has amplified ancient ones. It has taken vulnerabilities that existed in human psychology and weaponized them through technology. But the solution remains the same: the algorithm of inner freedom. Imagine a different morning. You wake up. The phone stays face down, silent. Not because you're avoiding responsibility, but because you've decided the first hour of the day belongs to you, not to notifications, not to demands, to you. You practice negative visualization. You imagine the day ahead, the potential frustrations, the difficult conversations, the projects that might fail. You see them clearly, without emotion, without resistance. You accept in advance that some things will not go according to plan, that you will be tested, that discomfort will arise. This does not make you pessimistic. It makes you prepared. You identify what you control, your effort, your integrity, your responses, your attention. These things remain yours regardless of what the world throws at you. Everything else is ultimately not up to you, so you release it, not with apathy, but with understanding. You set your intention for the day, to act virtuously, to do your best work, to treat others with respect, to maintain your principles regardless of outcomes. Then you append the reserve clause. All this, fate permitting, this creates psychological armor, not against feeling, but against devastation. You finally check your phone. The notifications are still there, but they've changed. They're just data now, information, not commands, not judgments, not threats to your peace of mind. You decide which ones require action, which ones can wait, which ones deserve no response at all. This is not avoidance, this is sovereignty. When you encounter something triggering on social media, you pause, you examine your reaction. What judgment are you making? What assumption underlies it? Is this reaction serving you? Is it based on reality or interpretation? A Stoic technique from 2 millennia ago becomes perfectly applicable. When faced with disturbing thoughts, ask, is this in my control? If not, then why disturb yourself over it? If yes, then take action instead of worrying. Someone criticizes you online, a stranger who knows nothing about your life. Your first impulse is defensiveness, anger, the need to correct them, to prove them wrong. But you apply the Stoic filter. Is their opinion in your control? No. Does it reflect reality? You cannot know. They're judging based on fragments, assumptions, their own projections. Their words say more about them than about you. So you do not engage, not from cowardice, from wisdom. You conserve your energy for what matters, for actions within your control, for people who deserve your time. This is not suppression, this is selection. The digital world offers infinite opportunities for outrage, infinite provocations, infinite chances to feel offended, inadequate, fearful, angry. Each one is an invitation to surrender your peace. The Stoic solution is simple. Decline the invitation. The historical mirror. The Stoics lived through their own form of chaos. Rome in the 2nd century CE was the center of the known world. Information flowed through it from every province, every culture, every tradition. The city contained millions of people, packed into close quarters. Social dynamics were complex. Hierarchies were rigid. Reputation could be destroyed overnight through gossip and accusation. Sound familiar? The Romans didn't have Twitter, but they had the Forum, public space where anyone could speak, where reputations were made and destroyed through rhetoric, where mob opinion could shift in an instant. They didn't have news feeds, but they had daily announcements posted in public spaces, lists of births, deaths, political decisions, military campaigns, a constant stream of information competing for attention. They didn't have smartphones, but they had clients and patrons, social obligations that demanded constant availability, the expectation of immediate response to summons, the pressure of maintaining complex social networks to survive and advance. The Romans experienced information overload, social pressure, performance anxiety, the fear of falling behind, the burden of constant judgment. Marcus Aurelius ruled during plague, war, economic collapse, political conspiracy. He lost most of his children, his wife, his trusted advisors. He faced assassination attempts, military defeats, the constant burden of decisions affecting millions of lives. His meditations reveal someone wrestling with the same demons we face: frustration with difficult people, anger at injustice, fear of failure, the temptation to give up, the desire to escape responsibility. But he didn't have the option to escape. So he learned to find freedom within constraint. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This was not philosophy as abstraction. This was survival technique. Epictetus taught, It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. He was speaking from experience, from years of slavery, from physical suffering, from having literally nothing except his mind. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, served as advisor to Emperor Nero, one of history's most unstable and dangerous rulers. Seneca lived under constant threat, his life dependent on the whims of a paranoid tyrant. He was eventually forced to commit suicide on Nero's order, yet his writings radiate calm, perspective, wisdom about the nature of anxiety and how to manage it. These men were not lucky. They were not privileged with easy lives. They developed their philosophy precisely because their lives were unbearably hard. The digital age presents new forms of chaos, but chaos itself is ancient. Human psychology is ancient. The vulnerabilities that technology exploits have always existed. What the Stoics discovered is that the solution lies not in changing external circumstances. That is often impossible. The solution lies in changing the relationship between consciousness and circumstance. This is not resignation. This is revolution. The cascade of change. Let's follow the thread. You begin practicing Stoic principles in your relationship with technology. Small changes at first. Intentional ones. You create rules. No phone for the first hour after waking. No checking social media before bed. Notifications turned off except for essential contacts. The first week is hard. Withdrawal symptoms manifest. The urge to check. The anxiety of missing something. The fear that disconnection equals irrelevance. Your brain has been conditioned. It craves the dopamine hits, the constant stimulation, but you persist. You recognize these urges for what they are. Not needs, just conditioning. Temporary discomfort, not harm. By week 2, something shifts. The constant background anxiety begins to diminish. The mental space that was occupied by digital noise becomes available for other things. Attention deepens. Thoughts develop complexity. Creativity emerges. You apply dichotomy of control to your work. You focus on effort rather than outcomes. You invest energy in producing quality work rather than worrying about how it will be received. Results improve, not because you care less, because you're no longer paralyzed by the fear of failure. A project doesn't go as planned. In the past, this would have triggered a spiral. Self-criticism, catastrophizing, days of rumination. But now you practice Stoic response. You examine what was within your control. You identify mistakes worth learning from. You separate those from factors beyond your influence. You adjust. You move forward. The mental energy saved is enormous. You start practicing negative visualization regularly. Before important events, you imagine what could go wrong, not to jinx yourself, to prepare yourself. When difficulties actually arise, you're not shocked, not devastated. You respond rather than react. Problems become puzzles rather than catastrophes. Your relationships change. You stop taking things personally. When someone is critical, you examine the criticism objectively. Is it valid? Then learn from it. Is it baseless? Then discard it. But you don't internalize either as a judgment of your fundamental worth. This is liberation. You notice your resilience increasing. Things that used to derail you for days now barely register. Not because you've become cold, but because you've become clear. You distinguish between important and unimportant, between your responsibility and not your responsibility, between temporary setback and permanent catastrophe. Your sleep improves. The racing thoughts that used to plague nighttime diminish. You practice the Stoic technique of examining thoughts as they arise. Are they productive? Are they based on reality? Are they about things you can control? Most aren't. So you let them pass like clouds. You don't engage. The cumulative effect is profound. You begin to experience something rare in the digital age: peace. Not the peace of having everything go right, the peace of being okay when things go wrong. People notice. They ask what's changed. You tell them about Stoicism. Some are curious. Some dismiss it as ancient history. Some begin their own practice. Imagine this multiplied. Imagine thousands adopting these principles. Tens of thousands. What happens to the algorithms when users stop reacting to provocation? What happens to engagement-based business models when people choose presence over compulsion? The digital world is designed to exploit human weakness. But weakness can transform into strength. What happens when the technology encounters resistance? When the psychological vulnerabilities it targets are no longer vulnerable? This is not about destroying technology. It's about mastering our relationship to it, about becoming users who use rather than users who are used. The Stoics called this living in accordance with nature, not nature as wilderness, nature as alignment with human rationality, with virtue, with the capacity for choice that distinguishes humans from everything else in the universe. Every notification you choose not to react to is an act of sovereignty. Every comparison you refuse to internalize is a victory. Every moment of presence you maintain in a world demanding distraction is a form of resistance. The return to ground. Let's step back. Look at the full picture. We live in unprecedented times. Technology has given us capabilities beyond imagination. Instant global communication, access to all human knowledge, connection across any distance. These are genuine miracles, but miracles have consequences. The same technology that connects can isolate, that informs can overwhelm, that empowers can enslave. Tools are neutral, but their effects depend on how they're used. The digital age has created a crisis of consciousness, an environment where the human mind is under constant assault, where attention is commodified, where anxiety is the default state, where inner peace seems impossible, but impossibility is just lack of imagination. The Stoics proved something crucial, that inner freedom is always available, that peace is not dependent on circumstances, that strength comes not from controlling the world, but from controlling your response to the world. This is not easy. It requires practice, discipline, constant vigilance. The digital world will not stop demanding your attention. The algorithms will not stop optimizing for engagement. The information will not stop flowing, but you can stop being swept away by it. You can create boundaries, practice principles, train your mind the same way athletes train their bodies, through repetition, through difficulty, through incremental progress toward mastery. The Stoic solution is not mystical, it's practical. It's a set of cognitive techniques refined over centuries, tested by some of history's most challenged individuals, proven to work regardless of external circumstances. What makes it revolutionary today is that it addresses the root cause of digital anxiety, not the technology itself, the psychological relationship to technology, the confusion between external events and internal responses, the investment of peace in things beyond control. When Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way," he was articulating something profound. That obstacles are opportunities. That difficulty is the path to strength. That resistance creates resilience. The digital age is an obstacle, an unprecedented challenge to human consciousness, but it's also an opportunity to develop new forms of mental discipline, to rediscover ancient wisdom, to prove that technology cannot conquer the human spirit without permission. This is not about going backward, not about rejecting progress, not about abandoning technology. It's about moving forward consciously, about using tools rather than being used by them, about maintaining humanity in an increasingly inhuman environment. The choice is yours. It always has been. That's what the Stoics understood. That's what makes their philosophy eternal. You are not powerless. You have never been powerless. The feeling of powerlessness comes from trying to control what cannot be controlled, from investing your peace in outcomes you cannot guarantee, from allowing external chaos to dictate internal state. But there is an alternative, a technology of consciousness more powerful than any algorithm, a practice of presence more engaging than any notification, a form of connection more meaningful than any number of likes. It exists in the space between stimulus and response, in the pause before reaction, in the choice you have every moment about what to think and how to respond. This is your sovereignty. This is your freedom. The question that remains: the Stoics conquered anxiety in a world of empire and plague, of slavery and war, of uncertainty and death. You face anxiety in a world of smartphones and social media, of information overload and performance pressure, of connection and isolation simultaneously. different eras, same solution. But here's what we must consider. The digital world is accelerating. Artificial intelligence is emerging. Virtual reality is advancing. The interface between human consciousness and technology is deepening. New challenges are coming. Challenges we cannot yet imagine. Will Stoicism still work? Will 2,000-year-old philosophy remain relevant in a world of neural implants and augmented reality? When the boundary between mind and machine becomes even more blurred? Or will we need something new? Some evolution of ancient wisdom adapted to unprecedented circumstances? The Stoics themselves would tell us that the answer lies not in predicting the future, but in preparing for it. Not in controlling what cannot be controlled, but in strengthening what can. Not in avoiding challenge, but in becoming the kind of person who thrives through it. So the question is not whether technology will continue to change. It will. The question is whether you will remain the same. Reactive, anxious, swept along by forces beyond your understanding. Or whether you will practice, grow, develop the mental discipline that transforms obstacles into opportunities. That finds freedom within constraint. That maintains peace in chaos. The solution exists. It always has. The Stoics left us the map. Will you follow it? In a world that constantly demands your attention, will you choose presence? In an age of infinite comparison, will you choose contentment? In a digital landscape designed for addiction, will you choose sovereignty? The algorithm is watching, waiting for your next click, your next scroll, your next moment of weakness. But you are not an algorithm. You are a human being with consciousness, choice, the capacity for wisdom. What will you choose?